The other day, I was chatting with a friend about punk, from punk music to the punk spirit of defiance, rebellion, and resisting mainstream culture. It reminded me of something I'd read before, and it suddenly clicked. Twas like someone was already doing this back in the Ming Dynasty. Hey everyone, I'm Lu Sanson. Today, let us talk about the extraordinary life of the great Ming Dynasty thinker Li, his brilliance, his rebellion, his refusal to conform. As society entered its later stages, the ruling class aggressively promoted this doctrine to maintain stability. There's a saying that goes, "Starvation is a small matter, but losing one's integrity is a great one." Actually, when this idea was first proposed, it wasn't necessarily a problem. It asked us to focus on moral cultivation and to suppress certain desires. Maslow's hierarchy of needs tells us that before a person can pursue so-called higher needs, like pursuing ideals, realizing self-worth, contributing to society, or improving one's own character, some basic needs must be met first. You have to have food, clothing, shelter. You have your emotional desires, your need for belonging. There's a saying for it. Only in years of good harvest can rights be learned. Only when well-clad and fed can men know honor and shame. So, this demand to preserve heavenly principles and eliminate human desires, by the later period, had warped into a rigid doctrine used to oppress the people. Li was totally against this idea. He believed that personal desires were completely natural. Making people cut out these desires entirely is just inhuman. At the time, Neo-Confucianism was essentially the state ideology of the era. Li's words were a direct challenge to the ruling class's authority. Sure enough, the emperor was furious, but he couldn't find a proper charge to punish Li. So, to completely ruin Li's reputation, he framed him with accusations of immoral conduct and deviance. Yes, exactly. It meant he was accused of immoral conduct. And they ordered all his writings to be burned and banned from publication. For a scholar dedicated to his work, that had to be the ultimate low blow. When the imperial guards came to arrest him at his home, Li actually walked out on his own. He was defiant. He said, "Find me a door plank. You have to carry me to prison." This arrogant attitude was probably just his way of expressing anger. I think. He felt he hadn't done anything wrong, yet they slapped him with such an ugly charge. Although the guards were indeed guards, they still found a door plank and carried him into the prison, just as Li demanded. After being imprisoned, they had to shave the prisoners' heads. This was the Ming Dynasty. After all, both men and women had really long hair back then. They were worried people might hide weapons or escape tools in their hair. When the guard was about to shave Li's head, Li suddenly grabbed the razor and slit his own throat. Blood was everywhere. The guard was completely stunned. After a long pause, he asked Li if it hurt. His throat was cut, so Li couldn't speak. Instead, he dipped his finger in his own blood and wrote 2 words on the ground. "Not painful." The guard then asked why he would do such a thing. Why take his own life? Li dipped his finger in the blood again and wrote, "A 70-year-old man, what more could he desire?" Meaning, I'm an old man of 70. What is left for me to hold on to? No one has the right to judge me. Besides, what did I even do wrong? I just wrote a few books and criticized the mainstream values of this society. You can kill me, but you cannot humiliate me. The only one who can judge me is myself. The only one who can end my life is me. Not long after, Li died in prison from excessive blood loss. I think even the punk kids today, who cause trouble to protest society and end up in jail, none of them are as hardcore as Li was. Li was a born nonconformist, a punk from the get-go. There is a story in the Analects of Confucius where Fanchi, one of Confucius' students, asks him how to grow crops. Confucius says, I don't know. Then Fanchi asks how to grow vegetables. Again, Confucius says, I don't know. Moment Fanchi steps out. Confucius starts bad, mouthing him. What a small-minded man. It's Confucius went on. Fanchi has real integrity. If he stayed in government, he could have done great things. But instead, all he thinks about is farming, planting crops and vegetables. Biddle looking at this story today. You might think Confucius had a point. Why would someone with the talent to be a great official refuse to serve? If he'd taken office, he could best helped more people, improved lives, served the public. But when the 12-year-old Lizzie read this, he immediately wrote a fiery essay clapping back. Confucius, you hypocrite! You look down on labor and the common people. How arrogant! If you... And this little essay of his quietly earned him a ton of praise from his classmates. Everyone was passing it around, saying he was truly a worthy disciple of the public. Lizzie was a born nonconformist, a punk from the get-go, by the age of 26. He'd already earned the title of provincial graduate. You all know just how incredibly difficult it was to pass the provincial exams back then, right? In the busiest years, the whole country only produced around 100 provincial graduates. It was literally 1 in 10,000. Just look at Fanjin. He went completely mad with joy when he passed in his 50s. After Lizzie passed the provincial exam, the very first thing he did was set all his books on fire. This wasn't like us just throwing our books out after the college entrance exams, selling them off or whatever. We just figured we wouldn't need any of this stuff anymore. But Lizzie burned those books out of sheer arrogance, total disdain for them. He felt he'd already mastered their core ideas. So what was the point in keeping them? Most were just later scholars' shoddy additions, worthless imitations. Burning them was no big deal, and he made sure everyone knew. He'd grasped everything essential. Keeping the books was pointless. A lot of it was just tacked on nonsense by later writers. So he burned them. Simple as that. In the summer of the 16th year of the Wanli era during the Ming Dynasty, Lizzie became a permanent resident at Longhuji Fo Temple and worked as a professional writer. And he started teaching at the Longhuji Fo Temple. Traditional Confucianism taught you to walk softly and speak quietly when passing through the courtyard. But Lizzie believed that children were naturally lively and energetic. He encouraged them to read aloud and play freely. He thought they should study hard when it was time to study, and play hard when it was time to play. As a teacher, he often wove his own ideas into his lessons. At the time, most tutors only accepted boys and enforced strict academic rules. But Lizzie, he taught both boys and girls. Not only that, but working-class people were welcome to come and listen to his lectures, and Lizzie would lecture anywhere, any temple, or deep in the mountains. Monks, woodcutters, farmers, women, people of all sorts would flock to hear him speak. During his time at the Longhuji Fo Temple, he was a total academic celebrity, so his influence just kept growing. A high official, Liu Dongxing, personally invited him to Shandong to write. The historian Zhao Hong hosted a book launch for him. Literary giants, the 3 Yonshi brothers, went to Longhu to stay with him for 3 whole months. Even foreign visitors, like the Italian missionary Matteo Ricci, had 3 friendly religious discussions with him. Major cities across the country took turns inviting him to give academic lectures. When Lizzie... Not long after, the book was burned again, so he went and wrote a sequel to a book to hide. It reminds me of graffiti on a wall, constantly getting painted over with whitewash, but no matter how much they cover it up, new graffiti always shows up the next day. Now that's punk rock spirit if I've ever seen it. One time, Lizzie was writing a book and got completely carried away. He was having a blast. Then, in a fit of passion, he shaved all his hair off. At that time, your body, junior hair, was considered a gift from your parents. So this act was absolutely shocking. By doing this, Lizzie was making a statement. He was going all in, going to the extreme. It is a lot like when punk kids shave a mohawk. T sends the same kind of message. Later on, he just went ahead and became a monk. But even as a monk, he kept on eating meat and drinking wine. One winter, it was freezing cold. There was no heating. So what did he do? Lizzie straight up burned a wooden Buddha statue from the temple to keep himself warm. Now that is hardcore. Actually, if you just look at Lizzie's life and see him as some kind of rebel, you're only scratching the surface. What really makes him remarkable is how deeply he thought about his era and society. He didn't just point out problems, she actually went out and did what he believed was right. You know you just said something really stupid, but then you see all your coworkers nodding along. You just go along with it, even when you don't believe a word. You know that feeling when you realize a mainstream value is just sick? But you still have to keep up the act to avoid being attacked. Speaking out like that takes some serious guts. Because I know I'm just an ordinary person. Sometimes, I just can't bring myself to rebel. I was too afraid to face a massive crowd judging me on moral grounds. That's exactly why I admire people like that even more. And these voices of dissent in any ear are like a single spark, holding the flame of revolution. Some Salesi was born in the wrong era, but I think it is precisely because he lived in that conservative, oppressive time that someone so clear-minded and courageously rebellious becomes so incredibly valuable. It feels like all great philosophers and thinkers speak truths their own age can't understand, right in the middle of the tide of their times. Whether it's Schopenhauer, Nietzsche, Marx, or Kierkegaard, even when imprisoned, persecuted, ostracized, or falsely accused. Even when their books are locked away or burned, the ideas of these visionaries still shine with light, illuminating the long river of history. Like torches or lighthouses, they show us the way. Romain Rolland said a person's suffering comes from two things. One is having no individuality, the other is love without love. Love is one esson. 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 Love is one esson.